Hello and welcome to another episode of the Making Sense of Politics podcast with me, Kate Carruthers.
And me, Nancy Georges.
Hey, Nancy, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Kate. I apologise for all of these tech problems. I'm determined 2026, I will nail it. I can't even, we should do just a blog post on that. This is our last one for 2025, our inaugural year.
I'm very happy that we've managed to make as many as we have, given all the drama that we've had in our lives.
Oh my God. Honestly, really, like 9 episodes and like really big episodes. So the good thing is over Christmas, we'll be releasing all the clips that will link back to the big episode. So if you're watching this and it's a big long one, don't worry. You'll be able to watch little short versions of it that link back to the main episode. So well done us. Happy 1 year.
Anyway, it's like just before Christmas, and there has been a lot of stuff happening, including some pretty bad stuff that happened in Sydney very recently. So did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I pulled that up as our first slide just to honour the victims in Bondi. A really, really awful, they are saying it's a terrorist episode. It was mass murder. There was a shooting. There were 15 people killed, murdered at the beach celebrating Hanukkah. It seems to have been very concentrated into the celebration area. So Hanukkah is Jewish New Year, and they had like a beach gathering, which was featured mainly for children. So there were lots and lots of families. And unfortunately, little 10-year-old Matilda died, and the oldest person was a Holocaust survivor. So it's just, I can't even, it's too much. And I live up the road from Bondi. So sorry. See, look, can you believe I never used to cry till I was 24 years old? Anyway, so we've all been touched. We know somebody who's been shot. He's now had 2 operations just to get him stable. They had to take the shrapnel out of his leg because the bullets were made to shatter inside the body for maximum effect. There were so many heroes. Like, that's the thing that we're trying to really focus on here, is to honour the survivors, and honour the victims, and honour the heroes, the people who stepped up. So many people threw themselves over bodies of children, vulnerable people, of their own family and family they didn't even know, which was just, one woman was looking for her son and saw a little girl crying. She's pregnant herself, threw herself on top of the little girl and saved her. And so many people, my friend's little 4-year-old, 5 today, happy birthday, Sonny, was with his granddad, and his granddad threw himself over Sonny when the shooting happened, and then saw people around him being killed. So it's just like, it's like that, it's just too much. And again, focusing on the fact that the country has come together, 50,000 people made appointments for blood donations the next day, which broke every single record that we've ever had in the country. There's been wonderful tributes. There's an online condolence book. I'll share all the links. There's been vigils at the beach. The flowers, we drove past there last night, and the flowers are just, everybody's paying their respects. It's just a lot of amazing spirit. And Bondi, if you don't know Bondi is the most accepting, inclusive community you will ever see. So many people, because of course it was all happening so quickly, 9 minutes of shooting. A lot of guys and girls use their surfboards to get shot people up away out of the area. Like, they literally were running into the area when the shooting was happening to get people out. The first responders were just everyday. Some of the first responders were everyday people. Official first responders ran into the gunfire to pull people out. Like, that's just, what an amazing spirit, Kate. And everybody keeps saying it won't define us.
I think the thing it shows us, though, is that terrorism can reach out to anywhere in the world, and that no one's immune from it, because people embrace terrorist ideologies anywhere, and it can happen anywhere, even in a place that, we thought would never happen. So it's really tragic. And it's the result of somebody's evil decisions to punish people collectively for things that they didn't do.
Do you know, my family came from Egypt in the 60s. To me, it's always been inevitable that Australia would have an incident like this, because we have a lot of the diversity that we do have, but we've imported a lot of the issues as well. I feel like some of us have been saying this for so many years. We've been holding our breath waiting for this because we aren't immune. Like when we were an island where we didn't have a lot of different variation, but it really, like you said, I think that's what shocked a lot of people globally too, right? Because they're like, in Australia, how can this be in Australia? But since October 7 as well, we've got to be frank. The anti-Semitism feeling has been strong, and
I think we need to make some really clear distinctions, because there is a lot of anti-Zionist feeling in the community now.
Yeah, that's
and
exactly
we
what I was
need to
going to
be
say.
careful to separate that from anti-Semitism, which is hatred of Jews because they're Jews.
But I think
And there's a lot of criticism in the community of the Israeli government and its Zionist ideology. These people were obviously conflating the two. They were just wanting to attack Jews, but there is legitimate place for criticism of the Israeli government and its Zionist actions
the
in the
Israeli
world.
people criticize the Israeli. That's exactly
Yes,
what I was going to say to you. I think unfortunately, it took this for people to realize that not Jewish people, the Jewish faith, are not the Israeli government. And I think for the last 2 years, maybe some people who didn't know so much or were just listening to certain sources on social media might have put them together. But they're exactly, and Jewish people are actually screaming out about the pain in Gaza and that Gazans are attacking. And I know from a lot of my friends here who are Jewish, because we live in the area, and people that I work with and people that I just know, just to see them, have been saying for the last few months that they're thinking of leaving Australia because they didn't feel safe. And I keep saying that to them. This is not, Australians don't understand. A lot of people don't understand the difference. And of course, we are all inclusive. And it is that anti-Zionist that might have for Pete's sake, the ICC have a warrant out for the head of Israeli government. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to sugar anything for our video, but there's a warrant out for his arrest by the International Court. So it's not, it's not that. I think this will show people truly where that delineation is. But I'm sorry, it took this for that to happen, because so many people are now, and you can see it, the conversation online, people going, oh my God, I thought that all Jewish people wanted this, or, so I think it's literally turned around. And unfortunately, I feel like it's also shown the government that any group is vulnerable. Like you're saying, it's that whole thing of this is a decision it doesn't even have to be a decision by a group of people. It could be two people who have something to prove that can affect that. So unfortunately, I feel like a little bit of that laissez-faire or the lack of security, or we're going to see a lot of security increased in Australia in the next few years. But I'm glad you said that too, Kate, because I think that's really important to understand the people from that ideology, which is also too fanatical and has no place in Australia.
so
Because we're praying for everybody.
I do know something about the perpetrators. You may not know. I did terrorism studies.
Do you know, you sent me the link this morning and I thought, well, that's a very good link. No, I didn't know that. I'm not surprised. Can I just say? Not surprised.
I did postgraduate terrorism studies a couple of years ago, and one of the things that we studied was some of the Islamic terrorist groups, and the two perpetrators were known to be allied to one of those terrorist groups, and they were under suspicion and were actually interviewed by the authorities a couple of years ago. But obviously that was pre-October 7, so they didn't seem to be likely to be active, and it's a real struggle for the authorities, I think, because they have this struggle. They see these people and know they've got ideas that align with these terrorist groups, but you make the judgment that at that time, pre-October 7, this is a couple of years ago, they weren't a threat to anyone. But it's really hard to think of how you're going to keep track of all these people and how you can understand what would precipitate somebody to do something horrific like this. And I know there's a whole lot of questions being asked in Canberra and in Sydney in the area of law enforcement, but it's just they've got a really hard job, and it's really terrible. So
ask you then, again, having grown up hearing the stories of families being murdered at their dining table simply because of their religion, where my parents fled, like this is the reality of what we knew was happening. If somebody's ideology is so far away from what the Australian ideology is, should they be here? And I think that's
the thing is, how can you know what someone believes? Are we going to start rejecting people for thought crimes?
But they were identified as being aligned to that ideology 6 years ago.
Yeah, but back then, and it'll all come out. There'll be an inquiry into this.
And I get it. I totally get it. Right? It's Minority Report. How can you pre-tell that somebody's going to do a crime?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I feel like also too in this time of surveillance, Ahmed Al-Ahmed, the Syrian ex-policeman fruit shop owner from Sutherland, he had his permanent residency rejected because he had a knife charge. He was found with a knife. So his residency was rejected. Yet somebody can be aligned with ISIS and have 6 guns. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we always get
there are questions that need to be answered, and I think we need to do some thinking about this stuff. But one of the things that really cheers me up is Anthony Albanese, our Prime Minister. He stood up and he said he's going to have a look at gun laws because the gun lobby has been actively loosening our gun laws every year since John Howard put them in place. And it's been something that's been mentioned a number of times, a lot of times by the Australia Institute, and reported particularly in the Guardian newspaper. I reckon, that will be one useful thing that will happen as a result of this. But watch this space. There will be inquiries and we'll report on it.
Very much. And I think to his point, exactly what you were saying about ideology changing, they're going to be renewing gun licenses and they're not going to be in perpetuity, which I think is so important.
Yeah. But a tragic thing, and our hearts go out to all the people who suffered, and good on all those heroes and heroines who stepped up on the day.
Amazing. You never know what you're going to do in that position, but amazing. And Allegra Spender, who's our member, suggested if you want to light a candle for the 7 nights of Hanukkah at 6:47 at sunset. And I know a lot of people, non-Jewish people, and reaching out to your Jewish friends. And I've done that. I hope I haven't missed anyone, but they were all very touched by having contact. So if you know anyone or just anyone who's just struggling, just to reach out and, check on them. So important.
Yeah.
They're the Beyond Blue and Lifeline numbers and all the help numbers.
Yeah. So onto the newsroom. My goodness. The water for AI. Oh my goodness.
Water and electricity, Kate. So I know. So what Kate doesn't know, you don't need to know about AI. I'm purely looking at it from the point of view of, number one, AI isn't magic, and people seem to think it's the panacea. But for me, my biggest concern is putting data centers in the city, in places where they are drawing on the electricity and the water, in places that are already strained for that. And as we know, we come into summer every year and the electricity goes out because the grid's got too much. And now there's also apparently Abigail Boyd was saying, who's a Greens MP in New South Wales, was saying that where this particular data centre is being placed is in a place where there is already identified to be water shortage issues coming up in the next 5 years.
So I might actually explain why data centres use so much water and why AI drives excessive use of it, because so when you have a data centre, you use electricity to run the computers, but you also use electricity to cool it down. Yep. And just a traditional old-fashioned style data centre that used to support a business and stuff used to use an awful lot of power and water. And typically there's 2 ways to cool data centres down. There's air and water. Air is not as efficient as water, yep. And that's why they use water cooling. AI uses very fast, very intensive GPU style chips. So they generate a lot of heat. So they generate more heat than a normal server. So a normal server was already pretty challenging to cool down if you had a lot of them stacked in racks. But now with these GPU chips that they use to drive AI, it gets hotter and hotter. So you need an awful lot of water to cool it down.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because are they hotter because they work faster, Kate? Is that too simple a?
Yeah, well, also they're very intense. They're very packed in. You know, they're bigger and faster chips, and you pack a lot of them in to run the AI operations. Increasingly, we're running hotter.
And can I ask you this? I was like, honestly, I just want to sit down with you for 4 hours to ask you AI questions one day. Do data centers need to be in the city?
Well, they need to be where they can be close to power and water.
So
Also, they tend to need to be relatively close to the populations they're serving.
that's okay.
Because you don't want to put one on the Nullarbor plain, for example. A, it'd be really hot there. B, it'd be a long way away, so you'd have a lot of latency issues. So you do want them to be in the big cities, so
Right.
where most of the population that are using them are. So most of the big cloud providers have a couple of regions in Australia. So they usually have Australia East, which is usually New South Wales and Victoria,
Yep.
and then they'll have one in Western Australia.
So should the government then prioritise water use, electricity use for the citizens or for the data centres? Is that too simple a question?
Well, the thing that I think, and nobody seems to be looking at it, is data centers don't need pure water. So they don't need the water to be like the water we drink. They could use cleaned up water from the toilets, from reclaimed from waste. Like that can be made really pure. We could drink it, but we don't really want to because nobody really likes the idea of it. But there is no reason why they couldn't use reclaimed wastewater to cool those data centers. They just need to set up the infrastructure, but nobody's asked them to, and the government probably should do that.
Putting it on the list, Miss Kate. You know me, I like to tweet or send out little blue sky messages to Albo. Well, that to me makes sense, right? And you also then this whole cycle of renewable, you're recycling the wastewater. It's just, yeah. So I think this is a big thing. And I know people pick on this like as one of the biggest things with the water, but you're looking at, in the States, there's a lot of data centers that are actually taking the water from the local community, and a lot of electricity is then being diverted to them, and people are without the electricity as well. So
one of the interesting differences between the US and China is China is also building lots of data centers for their AI, but they've got all renewable energy, a lot of renewable energy, a lot more than the US, and they're going to struggle with water, so they're probably going to have the same dilemma as that. But the US, it's all coal, it's all old fossil fuel power. So yeah, they're gonna really struggle. So we can make a decision about how we deal with it, but I recommend that we deal with it by looking at reclaiming wastewater to drive this use rather than make us drink that water, which is going to be the next thing that we'll have to look at once we start getting water shortages.
And quick AI question, Miss Kate. I was listening to a podcast yesterday and the guy was saying that the AI has pretty much churned up all the information on the internet and it's run out of information to churn. Is this your belief?
Yeah. So it's hoovered up all of that and all the models have been trained on it. So now what they're doing is they're actually creating synthetic training data. So they're creating manufacturing training data that looks like the internet but isn't. I know.
Don't even, good God, is all I'm going to, okay, no more. Oh my God, another Kate Carruthers hot seat question, digital ID. Now, I don't like the idea of surveillance. I like the idea of data. I don't think we need a digital ID. I think we're tracked enough and have enough info. However, I'm not you in the big picture, and I wanted to know what you thought.
So one thing I will comment is the source here is gbnews.com, which is a well-known United Kingdom right-wing news source.
Absolutely.
So we need to take that with a grain of salt. But some valid things. The thing is that many countries like Australia, like the UK, have always resisted the idea of having a national identity card. But we've always had a de facto thing. So you can't get a job in Australia if you don't give them your tax file number.
Correct. Correct.
So that's similar to an identity card. You know, in France, they have an identity card. Can't get a job without one of those. So we already have structures in place in most countries that say if you don't give us some sort of official reference number or something, you can't work. So that's the first thing. So it already exists. It's not digital, and it can be digital. So having an identity that is digital just makes sense. And you already can't work in most jurisdictions if you don't have, you know, in the US it's a social security number, in Australia it's a tax file number, there's an equivalent thing in most places. And digital money, like I haven't touched cash money for years, since before COVID. You know, I just use my phone.
I like money, Kate. Sometimes you just need money.
I know.
I'm going for security reasons.
I'm going to get some just in case there's some sort of outage, so I've got some cash to buy things with.
That's one of my questions, Kate. So what happens if we all go digital dollars, and then the banks, which have done again over Christmas periods in Australia, we've had like Rose Bay shops last year or the year before, none of the Commonwealth Bank machines were working. So if you didn't have cash, you couldn't buy anything at Christmas time, which, you know, the poor shopkeepers, 3 days without sales pretty much.
Yeah, well, you know, I was in Melbourne for that CrowdStrike outage that took out all the computers. Remember that?
Yeah.
And when I started hearing about it, and it was really early when I started hearing about it, I was like, oh, this is going to take everything out. So I ran downstairs, ran across the road to the Westpac Bank and took out some money. Like I was just like, I need some cash money just in case. So it is a thing. Yeah, it can be switched off if you don't conform, but typically in most of our countries, what would you need to do to have them switch it off on you? So GB News, very paranoid sort of news source. If it's not a right-wing idea, they don't like it. You know, so if it's a Nigel Farage idea, they love it, and if it's not a Nigel Farage idea, they don't like it. So
my concern, the one thing, sorry to interrupt you, the one thing that resonates, I mean, yes, and it's good to show that GB News catastrophize, but my thing is, say you have a situation like is what's happening in the US, right, where an absolute beep, 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 beep is in charge, and all of a sudden, every button that can be pressed off has been pressed off. So do you know what I mean? Like having that all in one place. And we already know that we can't trust them with our data. We already know that they do the wrong thing all the time. You know, Qantas, did you see what happened with Tony Abbott's boarding pass this week?
No.
Was it last week? This hacker, somebody said, oh, Tony Abbott's just uploaded his boarding pass. What can you do with this? So the guy goes, oh, let me just go in to that Google find. So they logged into Qantas, put in Tony Abbott's thing, went back in, found some information based on the boarding pass, and then they went into his Qantas account.
He deserves that. Everybody knows that your boarding pass has embedded data in it. It's literally the dumbest thing you can do, but it's very on brand for Tony Abbott.
Honestly, I did say that. You know, I was told when I was 10, don't put your boarding pass on, you know, don't even show anyone, right? Don't put it in the pictures when we put them in our photo album. So, and then they literally pulled up his government issued passport, which was just insane. Yeah.
Anyway, kiddies, let Tony Abbott be a salutary tale for you of what not to do. He's an idiot.
Yeah, fine.
Literally, he deserved that.
Qantas didn't even have a backstop in there, Kate. That was when I was watching in horror going, Qantas, the things we put into that system, our home addresses are in there. Like it's just...
Oh, no, they're all on the dark web because Qantas got hacked earlier this year.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's already out there. It's already on the dark web. Anyway.
Make it right, Kate.
Anyway, look, you're absolutely right. One of the things that we need to keep in mind, all of this is all very well while we have governments that we can trust who are doing the right thing. But if a bad government were to get control of this, it would be very bad for people. And in the US, Pam Bondi, who is the Attorney General, she's just released guidance that just basically says they're going to criminalise anybody that is anti-Trump. And they will be taking measures to control those people in various ways. So that is a legitimate thing. So it's a legitimate concern, but the thing is that it's coming our way anyway. So that, you know, so have some cash, but this is literally here. So in Australia, we like people like me have not touched cash money for years because we can just pay real time. If I go out to lunch with you, I can pay you back real time through our banking system, which you can't do in America because they have a crazy system.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can I excuse me just one moment? I've got to open the door. I'm so sorry. You've already been out twice, you little rat bag. Did you hear him? He just barked at, well, maybe you couldn't hear. He just barked at me, so I don't really want him to have an accident. Sorry, I will be editing that out. Apologies, Kate.
That's so funny.
Thank you. Life with dogs. Okay, so this was an interesting, I really like, do you know Sinead Bovell, Kate?
Yeah, I've seen her stuff.
Yeah, she's got really good info and quite sort of, she's not a catastrophizer, quite informative. But she was interesting. She was saying about data being manipulated, alerting people to when they go, I don't care if my data's on the internet, you know, I don't care and they're saying here that by what we do, which you and I know, but I think a lot of people don't realize that the algorithms, the Googles in the world can use your activity to then manipulate you to do what they want you to do using how you use the internet. Was her point.
Well, that is the thing behind all of these social media apps. And the day that they stopped just giving us stuff in a timeline of like this happened in this timeline and curated our timeline on our behalf, that was the start of it. So it started about 2010. So before that, all of our social media was basically timeline. It's like Nancy said this at 9:03, Fred said that at 9:10. That was how it worked, and then they started curating it, and then they were trying to push stuff to us, and that was the beginning of social media trying to direct us to certain content.
Yeah, and now, well, we're going to talk about the algorithm later. But I don't think people realize when they go, oh, my information's there anyway, I don't care. They don't understand how much that can be manipulated against them.
Well, it's even that they don't understand now with all the deep fakes that it can be used by bad actors to start to do bad things. So, you know, so if you've got 6 seconds of video out there on the internet like us, they can build a deep fake of us that is quite realistic and use it in a Zoom call to persuade our families to give us money, which is why my family has a code word.
That's it. I was going to ask you, do we need a code word? We need
a code word. Everyone needs a code word because somebody who looks compellingly like your relative can appear on a Zoom call and be asking them for money, and unless you've got something preset like a code word, or you ask them something that only that relative would know, you can't tell. And people have been swindled out of millions of dollars this way.
I mean, they're good, the deep fakes. They really are. And I mean, the technology is not even that good yet, but the deep fakes are amazing. Good point. Well, that's a tip. Doing some tips, get a code word. So yeah, I do recommend following her. If you it's just for really good information, it's just for everyday people using the internet, answers a lot of talks a lot around AI for everyday use. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really, really nice advice. But yes,
watch this space.
Deep fakes, they're bad. They're good. They're so good. They're bad.
They're so good. They're bad. This was what, this is why I love your links, Miss Kate. This is scary, right? Sorry. Sorry, everybody. Life with the dog. I would love to lock him in a room. So we have rising temperatures, which is bad for the climate all round. This I found was really interesting. Of course, hurricanes are going to get stronger as the heat gets more. I never even made this correlation before.
I know. I'm just here to cheer you up. You know that, Nancy.
to let people know, we post links then that we want to put into the presentation. Hey, so I end up going down a massive rabbit hole. I read the articles, I look at the references, and I'm like, oh my God, this is important because they're already, lives lost are my priority always. But then when you look at the economic impact of 75 deaths. This is the one in the Caribbean. What's her name? Melissa, after Hurricane Melissa. 75 deaths, insured losses surpassing $4 billion, and tens of billions of dollars more in the overall damage. So, and that's then the losses of economy. That's losses all around. And this was particularly important because when you go, the Earth's getting hotter, it's just climate, the Earth's getting hotter for hundreds of years. It's not. This is not normal. The speed is not normal, and the impact is massive.
So the one of the things that struck me in this article was they were saying, do we need to have another level for the intensity of the hurricanes? So Category 5 is the highest now, so they're proposing a Category 6, which means where the damage is going to be more, the risk to human life will be more, and these are some of the impacts of climate change that we will see as the oceans get hotter. As the oceans get hotter, more hurricanes and stronger hurricanes.
We had hurricanes in Australia last year, like in the last 12 months.
Never seen them before.
Yes, I know people in America that live in that area, like we've never had them. And then it wasn't just one, it was multiples.
Yeah. So we've always had tropical cyclones up north, like in Darwin and far north Queensland, but we've never had hurricanes in Australia. So, it's just changing, and it's going to keep changing and probably keep getting worse.
More dodgy. This was your heading with this link. More dodgy stuff?
More dodgy stuff, yeah. Well, so one of the things that all of the big fossil fuel powers and corporations all do is they always lie. And Saudi Arabia as an entire nation is very dependent on petrodollars. And so they are one of the biggest blockers of climate action globally, along with all the big companies that are petro companies. So they literally are charging a lot of this anti-climate change rhetoric online. So they fund that as a state, as do many of the big corporates that have big fossil fuel interests. So I just think it's really worthwhile people to understand behind a lot of this anti-climate change rhetoric is big dollars from big players and even whole nations that are against it.
What's more alarming too is that their own people are literally boiling in the desert. I think the line was there. Their people already face climate at the verge of livability. They're almost not able to live in their own climate in their own country. Like it's just, I also think, where do you live if you don't realize how hot it's getting when it's hot in the places where it's snowing unseasonally? Like we can literally feel the difference now. It's not just a half a degree or a fraction of a degree. It's so much hotter than it used to be.
Yeah. So they just want to keep boiling us while they, make petrodollars. And it's unconscionable, but, they don't care about their people because they care about the dollars more than they care about the people.
Unfortunately, the world that we live in at the moment.
Yeah.
But it will change. But no, bit more dodgy stuff.
Oh my God. So, this one's about, the corals around Australia are literally dying from the marine heat waves. So the marine heat waves have been active and they're bleaching all the corals. So, if you need to go and see a reef that's alive, go now. Because they won't be for much longer. So they on the west coast of Australia, the Ningaloo Reef, which is amazing, they reckon about more than 60% of their coral has died.
And they can't rebuild it back, can they? Or it takes a lot to make it come back, doesn't it?
Well, it will need the temperatures to get lower, and they're not likely to get lower in our lifetime. So I don't see them coming back. It's just go now if you want to see them.
Marine life with their mating times and stuff are affected by the heat as well.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. It's too much.
But, one thing Australia is really, really good at is
with the next slide.
Killing species, killing entire species.
It's disgusting. It's actually not funny.
Like Australia has one of the world's highest rates of extinction. So we have killed off 100 species of animal and plant life since European colonization, which is like 200 years. So in 200 years, we've killed off more than 100 species.
Criminal. It's criminal.
And there are more species added to that list. So well done, Australia. You know, you're winning the award for killing things.
I think, you know, if you're the Prime Minister and species become extinct in your time, you should be taken to the town square and whipped.
That seems a bit extreme. Maybe we could just throw rotten fruit.
No, I think, but this is a big deal. Koalas. They're saying if we don't act now, koalas will be extinct by 2050. Can we just...
Koalas, because we're knocking down the places that they live. We're knocking down all the trees to build houses.
Yeah, you know, I saw a really good, because I'm looking at some, you know, that thing around products that are better for the climate. And there's so many great materials being created, developed, that are better than wood and that are stronger than wood. And that mean we don't have to cut down the trees. But then to your point, the industry...
No, but we're cutting down the trees not to build the houses, but have a place to build the houses. So that's why we're knocking down koala habitat. We're knocking it down because koala habitat is still close to the cities. It's the only available land close to the cities. So we're clear felling the koala habitat, which is where the koalas used to live, to build houses.
But then, you know, we went to the koala park on Phillip Island. Oh, my God. Can I just tell you? It was the best day, one of our best days that we've ever had. Both Jason and I loved it. We had no kids with us. We literally were just in the park. And there's so much preventative stuff they can do. They can remove the koalas out of those areas, but they need to also plant where koalas can also live, but they just choose not to. And then these poor rescues end up getting singed, burnt, dead koalas to save. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Do better.
Albo, don't kill the koalas. Stop it.
Albanese, do better.
And then this
is something else we're good at.
Yeah, we're really good at the bad stuff. Why are we better at innovation? I don't know.
I think the people are, the government's not.
The thing is that we are one of the biggest deforestation hotspots in the world. And when you think about it, we've only got green stuff around the very edge of the country. The middle bit's basically desert. So we're actually deforesting the bits of the country where it can grow. And it's just shameful.
It's also too, you know, you look at what European countries are doing with canopy. So using big trees and using foliage to actually put the shade in the cities to keep the cities cooler, better for climate. You know, trees give off CO2. Didn't we learn that in year 3? And we're cutting the trees down. It's just so wrong. So, yeah.
Albo, add this to your bad report card.
Disgusting. It really is disgusting.
50 years. It doesn't seem like 50 years.
It seems like yesterday poor old Whitlam was... Can you just encapsulate the dismissal for people overseas or young people who don't know?
The people who don't know. So after many, many years of Liberal Party government in Australia in the early 70s, Gough Whitlam became the Labor Party leader, and he led them to victory with a really big campaign that said, it's time. It's time for a change. It's time. So that was their tagline. And he got into power, and the Conservatives were completely horrified by what he did. And under Malcolm Fraser, who ended up being a friend of mine many years later, so under Malcolm Fraser, they actually manoeuvred to get Whitlam sacked as Prime Minister. So they blocked supply. So they didn't vote the funds for the government to fund their budget, and they ended up getting the Whitlam government sacked. And then there was the famous time on the steps with Gough where he said, God save the Queen because nothing will save the Governor-General. That was as he got whisked away after he'd been fired. And Malcolm Fraser then became the Prime Minister, and it was, and the interesting thing is that the Crown, so the UK royal family, have not permitted their letters in respect of this to be made public, even though the time is they should have been. So we think that the Queen was actually complicit in the sacking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, it's a weird thing because a foreign country, the United Kingdom, sacked our Prime Minister. The other interesting rumour is that the CIA actually had a hand in it too because they didn't like Whitlam.
Interesting.
So that was potentially American and British influence in that. So that was it. So 50 years ago.
Given what we know about world politics today, that is quite likely, right? Because the CIA did. My mum used to always say, I wonder what Australia would have looked like had Gough Whitlam not been sacked. And I think a lot of people wonder that, Would be
Well,
very
just look at the things two of the things that he's left us with. No fault divorce. So women were finally able to divorce without proving any kind of infidelity or anything. Yeah. So that allowed women to leave domestic violence situations without any fault. And Medicare. So the Medicare, which is our centralised healthcare system, those two are two of his great legacies. And I'm really glad that he did that because otherwise you can just imagine women would be still trapped with men abusing them, and we wouldn't have the healthcare system that we have. So that was it.
Because Lord knows the Libs would never have done either of those things.
No, they would not. They would not.
Never. Gough Whitlam. Hope you.
Anyway, so Malcolm actually never quite regretted it, but I
was going to ask you that.
I think he kind of felt bad about it. I don't think he didn't regret getting to be Prime Minister and all of that stuff. So I kind of feel he kind of regretted it in his later years.
Yeah.
But he stood by it because he genuinely believed that Gough was really bad for the country. And he was doing some really weird, dodgy stuff with some loans and stuff. So I can totally understand where Malcolm was coming from.
Yeah, it sort of all comes out after. I was very young when it happened, but I do remember the TV. I remember that, God help the Governor General. I remember that phrase so clearly because it was like, wow, look at what the Prime Minister's saying. But of course, studying it years later, you just go, my God.
Yeah,
really good TV show. Was it a TV show or a miniseries done, The Dismissal?
Oh, there was a really good miniseries. Yeah, it's worth watching.
Yeah, if you can. Sure, it's on somewhere. But yeah, wow. I literally stopped breathing when I saw this, Kate. How?
Yeah, well, the rules for electoral parties don't say you can't be Nazis.
So this is part of this layer of, what we're saying about gun reform, gun control reform, and trying to work out what is good for Australia. This is not good for Australia. So this definitely, needs to be the Electoral Commission who actually announce this need to make some changes, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think it goes without saying that we shouldn't be allowed, neo-Nazis shouldn't be allowed to form an explicitly neo-Nazi political party in Australia, but there are no barriers to them doing so. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah.
Well, and they are saying that there is that group that are saying that they will want to register a political party.
Yep.
See, why can't we just avert the disaster?
I know.
Anyway, Albo, other one.
Oh my God, we've got the social media ban. It's
so this is this algorithm. So this is where I would love your input because in my head,
hold on. So there's two bits here. So there's the social media ban on under 16. Now, in my chats with the local teenage boys at the railway station in the morning, they've all found other ways and they are not off social media. Yay, the ban is working entirely not as planned.
Yep.
Who could have predicted that? So
not me.
That's that happening. That's hilarious.
And it's causing a lot of so the thing is, under 16, these are the websites you can't go on. So it was supposed to be a magic turnkey. The algorithm would figure out what your internet use is. So it'll figure out your age based on your internet. And then at some stage, they're going to ask for ID. So
I've already been asked for ID. I've already had to provide ID.
Oh, did you? No, see, I got a window saying, are you over 16? I went, yes. And it went, okay. So obviously my content is very over 16. But see, I haven't been at what site asked you for ID?
Oh, I'm not gonna say which site.
But of course, sorry. But see, so YouTube. I got that message on YouTube. Are you over 16? And it was a really weird message. But the big thing is too that kids are finding their way around it, and then they're migrating to the sites that don't have the guardrails on. So if they can't get around it, they're just going where they can. So this is my thing is around, and people are going, well, you can't smoke till you're 16 or I don't know, 18, whatever. You can't drive till a certain age. This should be the same. Kids are going to use computers for the rest of their lives. I just believe, instead of saying, I believe that the internet right now is a poisonous, gelating, pus-filled ocean, and it needs to be cleaned up. So instead of saying to kids, you can be 16 when you jump in the poisonous water, why don't we clean up the water and get rid of the poison? To your point, that we see things chronological, we follow what we want to follow. If you want to opt in for suggestions, you can. But why can't we focus on that instead of this?
Because those companies that have been curating our feeds through algorithms are making too much money doing that. So they don't want us to do that. So one thing I think that the world needs, and every country needs this, every country knows who their citizens are and when they were born. And every country needs to set up a centralized service that can just, on a query from a website, go, yes, this person is over 13, over 16, over 18.
Good idea.
Thumbs up, This is Kate, yes, she's over 18. That's all they need to know about me. And there should be a centralized service in whatever country you're a citizen of that tells companies that. And then that would actually then there wouldn't be a huge separate pile of honeypots around without. So that's the thing I think we all need. I think we need a centralized age validation service where they don't need to know my date of birth. They just need to know I'm over a certain age or not. So that's one thing. The thing is, so you've pulled this screenshot, from a video.
So what she's saying is that she went into really, she has some really good videos as well. She went in to YouTube and went in on a private browser and logged out of everything so that YouTube couldn't tell who she was. Went in on a private browser and put in the word feminism to see what would come out. And she said, because apparently a lot of young guys, this is how they search, or they search around women's questions, and then all of a sudden she got all this anti-woman hate stuff coming at her. And she said, then she went in and did a couple of other sort of searches around what young men would search for. And then they were being fed this very, very anti-woman, women hate, women are bad, women need to be dominated content without actually even doing anything on the app. And that was her point. Her point was, well, hang on a minute. It's not, they are built to hate women. They are building these platforms to attack women. And then these kids, these young boys are getting this content without ever seeking it. So around, again, the algorithms.
I actually argue that men don't like women very much anyway, because they wouldn't treat us the way most men wouldn't treat us the way they treat us if they liked us. So low key, men don't really like women.
Can I just add to that? Because I do look at every comment under whenever we post anything, and it's always men who attack the two of us, to women talking, why are you talking? Gabbing our gun.
Oh yeah, why are we talking? Why don't we just shut up and go and make a sandwich?
Correct.
Yeah,
they attack, they criticize, some make suggestions, but it's never, the women always go, great, I really enjoyed it. I didn't know I need to do that. I agree. Politics is interesting, but it's the men and so this is our
so misogyny is pervasive out there, and and there are men who've worked out that misogyny is a way they can make money. So while they can make money from it, we're not going to get rid of that content, especially since most countries have some kind of ability for freedom of speech. So the real question starts to be, what are you going to do if you've got young men in your life? How are you going to educate them that this content is out there and have some real conversations with them about misogyny, which is embedded in so much of our societal life?
It's very true. But then, because I do believe that critical thinking and emotional intelligence instilled in young children is so important for their growth and for our society. I really get that. But then to her point, or not even just to her point, just the point around the algorithms are created to get you addicted, to get you scrolling, to get you hooked, to get you hateful. Shouldn't then, the same way that advertising, right? You couldn't put a pay, as much as they would want to, you can't put a full page ad in the Sydney Morning Herald going, women are stupid, punch your wife tonight. Like, you can't do it because there's advertising standards. Why are there not those standards and regulations then with these algorithms?
Well, that actually probably goes back to the fact that most of these apps are American, and Americans have legislation, they have a constitution that guarantees their right to freedom of speech. And there is also a section in their legislation that guarantees the sites that they don't have to police the behaviour of or the content of people on their sites because they're not legally responsible for it. I think it's Section 230. I think it's what they talk about.
Can't Australia or European countries, the UK, can't we, in our own sovereignty, say you want to operate in?
No, we can't. So our e-safety commissioner has tried to tell Facebook to remove some kinds of bad content, and they've just laughed in her face.
Yeah.
Because they're a global brand. They've got billions of customers, and she's wagging her finger at them and saying, you're doing very naughty stuff from Australia. And they could literally cut us off and not notice a drop in revenue. We're a rounding error.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can't control that. With the legislation that we've done with the under-16s, they're taking that seriously, and every other jurisdiction around the world is watching this.
So because there's fines attached, right?
Yeah. Fairly sizable fines. But the Facebook business model in the EU is they just breach the EU rules and pay the fines. It's just cost of doing business for them.
So this is my question. This is my other thing. So yes, at best it becomes a safer place. At worst, we make revenue from the fine as a country. Before the Orange took office, the European and Australia, European countries, or maybe it was the EU, I can't remember, and Australia were in agreement that there was going to be some guideline regulation demanded back onto the platforms. I think Facebook was the first one, or Google. I think there were a couple. And then the Orange came in and they paid a lot of money to the Orange, and then it was dismissed. It's gone away. But somewhere in the future, could you see that would be happening then again, where Europe, Australia, the UK would put that demand on not just Facebook, just all the platforms?
So I need to explain that more generally how the US under its current regime does not believe in any regulation on any social media platforms. So they don't want to have any rules.
But so I understand that, but
they're the majority of the apps. The majority of the apps come from them, so they are not going to be playing nice. And even if the rest of the world gangs up and agrees on legislation, except for this stuff with the aged children, blocking children, because some states in the US are already blocking under 16s from seeing content.
Well, what about so I think that the EU one wasn't just about content too. It was about the fact that if yes, you get your tax-free status in Ireland, but that's irrespective. If you're going to operate in France, you're going to pay French taxes. If you're going to operate in Australia, you get Australian taxes.
Yeah, so that all got caught up in the tariff war that Trump started.
Yeah, he bought his way out.
So basically, he threatened to put very high tariffs on all the jurisdictions that were going to put those tax obligations on those US entities, and they've all backed off.
Somewhere down when the sun shines brighter and the world is clear, hopefully that gets revisited.
So once all of those jurisdictions no longer care about US doing trade with the US, they will be able to do that.
Yeah. But in a united way too, that's where the power comes as well, isn't it?
Well, the thing is that they all have competing concerns. So the thing is that they want to reduce the volume of US tariffs against them. And so he can divide and conquer by putting differential tariffs on different countries.
Yeah.
And the thing is that all of those other countries don't have a common agreement, because there are now different drivers for them, because now with Trump starting that trade war and that tariff war, now each country is trying to maximize its investments in the US at the lowest possible tariff.
Yeah.
So they're all now competitors. So once they would have been, because there were no tariffs, they could join up. But now he's driven wedges between all of those countries. So they're now competing in their own interest. So there is no reason for them to gang up together and put taxes on those US corporations. So the only way that can happen is if all of those countries reduce the need for them to buy or sell anything with the US.
Which is what they're working on, really.
I know. I think everybody's trying to do that at the moment. But once they've all got separate trade agreements, then they can start to tax those companies, and Trump won't have the leverage. But at the moment, he's got the leverage. If you do that, I'll whack tariffs on you, and that won't be comfortable for you.
And are you seeing platforms like challenger apps coming in from non-US countries? Do you see that could be something? No, just America.
Mostly from China. There's some from China, but the thing is that I think we're going to start to see a shift now into more video-based content. So I think there'll be an opportunity for some novel apps to start to emerge. But one of the things is competition, innovation policy. So where startups can get funding, and that's still the US.
Yeah.
That's still the place to go to get funding. So even if you're a startup that starts in the EU, you will very quickly migrate to the US because that's where you can get funding, and so you'll be part of the US ecosystem.
Unless a lot of these people, I suppose, no, but oligarchs are happy in the US, aren't they? Because they've just got pay to play.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the US has become a very oligarch or broligarch or broligarch friendly jurisdiction at the moment. So that's why Elon Musk is still there, so all of those big players, there's no reason for them to go. It's a very friendly regime for them.
For now. Stay tuned.
I think it'll be for a while. I think it'll be very friendly to them till the end.
Yeah, but the end could be nigh, Kate.
No.
According to what they're saying.
No.
Oh, I hope so. Ding! Oh, so this was actually your clip, which I was like, this is me.
It's you, I know. I was like, oh my God, it's you too.
So I don't know. So I think I mentioned my Facebook disappeared 9th of June this year, and coming to the end, so you have 180 days. And Kate suggested at about day 60, 65 days left to go and see if somebody. So no, because we also lost our Making Sense of Politics page. And then you suggested going to see if somebody can set it up. And then I was like, oh, hang on, maybe these people can also help me get back onto it. So with hang on a minute. I must have had more than 60 days. But it came down to 26 days to go. I got my Facebook back. And I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to be targeted again. But basically what happened, it's because they kept saying to me, was this in June? That's what made me go back and look at the date. So in June, they must have brought the bots in to moderate, and bots went nuts and just turned off a whole heap of accounts, millions of accounts around the world. And most of these accounts were gone forever, like my Instagram account with 1,000 people on it. They can't tell me why. They cannot tell you what happened. They cannot tell you what the violation is. It told me that I had a child image violation in November and September. And I tried to explain, but I haven't had my account since June. So how is that possible? Nobody could, just can't tell you.
They don't care.
They don't care. And it's not that, like the lovely people on the phone, they cared. They literally couldn't do anything. And the guy in the end said to me, look, we got you back your Facebook account, which has guardrails on it. I still can't access my business pages. So I have another account now to do all of that. But my business page, I can't post things in my groups. I couldn't do marketplace, but of course they've lifted the marketplace, spending money on the platform. Of course they're going to lift that.
They like that, yeah.
Yeah. So they've just lifted that this week. So stay tuned. I'm still fighting for change. But
so the important message here to small business owners is do not put all your eggs in one basket. So do not put all of your business stuff in Facebook. Have own your own website, own your own domain, get that under your control. Have Facebook as a supporting platform, but really start to, and if you're going to do a newsletter or anything, run that separately to Facebook, because you can't export your users from Facebook anyway. They don't let you do that.
Correct.
So you need to own your own data. So that's what I do recommend to people is build your ecosystem with your own website as the center and Facebook and then the other social media platforms around that as part of your ecosystem.
I created like a little blueprint picture to show people like your website or your physical location is what you own. It's your house with a mortgage, and everything else is your rental property that you can be evicted of. So God never thought it would be me. But also, Kate, the big thing is to disconnect everything. So, I had my Facebook and Instagram connected, and somehow I had hubby's page on as well. I don't think, maybe it was in my account center. I'm not sure, but he lost his Facebook and Instagram account too, which is really bad because the building industry is very connected. Everybody authenticates you through Instagram, but I got that in 2 weeks. So I was able to sort of disconnect all the account center stuff. But for me, I don't connect anything. So, when it's like Instagram wants to go to Facebook, forget it. I just disconnect everything. Don't even connect it to your website. Don't connect anything now. Just put the link from your website. Don't have anything going back in. It's just too hard when they sort of do their thing. And to your point too, I think the other thing is then I sort of communicated across. So I put a Facebook, no, because I couldn't open, I tried 4 Facebook accounts and they kept closing them. But I went into my new Insta and put a little video going, hey, if you found me, this is what's happened. Because you then need to tell people what's happened. And I put it on my website as well. This is what's happened because people then need to find you. So that's also why you need to have your own website. So again, whatever you do, just do not rely on social media. Also too, we know with Facebook, they're not showing you. Your followers don't get your content anyway. So, yes, unfortunately, though, a lot of people have lost a lot of money because they did not have that safeguard in place. So beware, folks.
Sorry, I just had to move the meeting.
Nope. Sorry. Whatever that is.
All right. But yeah, so don't be like Nancy. Don't join everything up.
And do you know this was my other thing that is my big learning is with your groups, when you have groups and pages, have multiple admins that aren't connected to you. So that way I was still able to go, thank God to our local group, I was still able to go back into that and do stuff in there. But I didn't do that with my business page. So yes, just safeguard yourself.
Yeah. It's a valuable life lesson and
good content for work, but not ideal for my stress level. So kids, so this is my big drum that I've started to hit a lot, especially because we have a lot of young children around us, is kids and devices. And I really want to do a deep dive episode into this, Kate, if we can, because I'm finding a lot of parents are shrugging their shoulders. 2014, a friend asked me to do a talk at her kids' school around social media and children. And then I got invited to the junior school of my high school to do a talk, which was fantastic. And by the end of it, bullying came up and there were 2 things. We talked about bullying and what to do. And a lot of the teachers were like, oh, I didn't realize social media could be so much fun. I thought it was a real demon, which coming from teachers was a little bit concerning. And I've done a few of these school talks and every time somebody goes, oh my God, I didn't realize. But I think the big thing is that Roblox, I played Roblox with a little person this year. And as I was playing it, I was quite distressed about it. I was like, what the heck is this place that these primary school kids are in? And I deep dived. And then there's so much anti-Roblox content out there at the moment. And I didn't realize how many people didn't realize, if you know what I mean. And I suppose, when you're a parent, you're busy. Also, too, a lot of people aren't as up with tech as their kids are. And then kids use that to the advantage. You don't know, Mum. You don't know, Dad. I'm fine. I'm safe, whatever. To the credit of a lot of people I know, they do go back and they do enforce these boundaries. But it becomes very hard when kids are addicted and stuck to their devices to undo them. And I think this is the big thing. I think that schools should be involved. We can't wait for the government, but I think schools should get involved. Schools should get education and tips and tricks for parents. They should bring everybody together and they should start this as a program that is done across school and across the friendship group. And if the school isn't doing it, I think parents should then go back to the school and say, hey, we need to do this. This is a thing. We need to figure this out as a group. Let's do this as a group. Now, this little fellow who I'm not a fan of putting children on the internet. I should actually block his little face out. I'll do that. But they did a no device And yes, it was not pleasant for the first 2 weeks, is what they were saying. I think he's a behavioural doctor who was interviewing this boy, who might be, I think he's the boy's doctor. I thought he was his dad to begin with. And it's so interesting because this young guy who's 12 said, I'm so glad, even though I didn't want to do it in the beginning, I'm so glad you did it because I'm now playing. I've now discovered things. I've got more time. I talk to my parents. My friends are doing it too. And when he said, what about your friends who are still able to play devices? Do you feel bad? He's like, no, I feel bad for them because they're not experiencing life. And you could tell he wasn't coached, but it was such an interesting, I thought this was a really good way to show that at the end of the road is possible. And it's not going to be painless, of course, but this is so important to get a hold of, because don't rely on the ban, rely on giving them the tools and information. Why did I remember being asked if I wanted some drugs when I was in school, as you do, right? Like somebody's brother was growing marijuana, so they were making little tea bags of it to bring to school. And I was asked, and I was like, no, I don't want drugs. Drugs are bad. Thank you, but no. And, that, and I was still friends with everybody and nobody hated me, and, life went on. And I feel like it's that sort of resilience and information you need to give your kids, or tools you need to give your kids.
Yeah, I think you've raised some really good points, and it goes to that example that I've used a lot of the times of getting the whole family to participate and everybody putting the devices away and all going off and reading a book. Not just singling out the poor little kids.
That's a lot of that's the other side of it. A lot of adults who are now saying that online are saying, when my kid said, could you maybe put your phone down for 5 minutes to play with me, Dad? They were like, oh my God, what am I modeling for my own kid? But I think that becomes part of that education as well. And it's interesting to see that, Kate. I was
having a chat with my brother the other day, and he was just like, his attention span's diminished so that he can't read books. So he's retraining himself to sit down and read books. Because he's just gotten out of the habit. He's just, scrolling on screen. And we all need to learn to do different things.
I bought myself my first ever adult advent calendar. I got it from Paper Chain when we were in Canberra, and it actually has little books and little informations on books and books to read and I'm literally doing that every day because I've got a bookcase of books that I need to read. I really have lost that skill. Or I'll start to read and then I'll go, oh, bored now, look at the screen. Oh, bored now, look at a magazine. Yeah. So your brother and I can compare notes next year.
Yeah. Hey, Nancy, I need to go now. So maybe we'll draw it to a close here and let's reconvene, hopefully pre-Christmas, to finish the deck.
Okay. So do a close off now and then, should we do that, or should we release this as part 1?
Release it as part 1.
Okay, so I'll edit that and then put that. So do a close off now and then we'll do that. We'll keep the deck open.
So thank you very much for joining us for another episode of Making Sense of Politics. We'll be back with part 2 real soon.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye. Don't forget to follow us, on all of our socials and our posts, please. Thank you. See you, Kate.
Bye.